Hi all, today we are going to start with what we call ETL. ETL, so we are going to extract data, we are going to transform it, or we are going to clean it, and we are going to load it. So the data will be the main macroeconomic indicators. GDP, we'll look at GDP deflator, unemployment, and inflation. So those are the things we are going to extract. We will transform it, and we will load it into Excel, and we will play around with it. Well, doing that enables us to ask a lot of interesting questions. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'll come here to Google. I'll just type IMF Economic Outlook Database 2021. We are in 2021, so we are going to extract data from 1980 to 2020 because we don't have the final data for 2021. So let's go with that. So here I'm going to take the first one under imf.org. So I'll right click to open it in a new tab. So once I do that, I have it here. We have World Economic Outlook database, and it's organized by countries, by group of countries, and the entire data set. So if you want the entire data set, you click here. That's not what we want right now. We don't want by group of countries. You can explore it. We want by countries, so that if you want information on Canada, on Afghanistan, on the USA, you can take that specific country. If you take this one, then you will take aggregates of countries. You'll take maybe the G7, maybe the EU, maybe North America. We want specific countries. So I'm going to click here. There we go. So we see we have 5 steps to get to our data. So here it gives us the option again. If you want the advanced economies under the Euro area, or the major advanced economies under G7, or you want the emerging and developing Asia, blah, blah, blah. We do not want that. We want all countries. So I'm going to click on all countries to make sure I have it. So we move on to step 2. We've just chosen the countries. So here it gives me the option. Do I really want all the countries? By default, all countries has been selected. So if I click on clear all, you see it changes. So if you want to do it manually, if you like torturing yourself, you go on and do it manually. My idea of life is not to torture myself. So I'm going to click on select all, so that it's going to do it automatically for me. And if you come here, you can read more what it is all about. It's telling you we have primary domestic currency in Afghanistan is the Afghani. The last date updated is April 2021, and so on. So the data you have here is quite current. Let me move on to the next stage. We want to go to the 3rd step. So I'll click on continue. Now it wants me to select the macroeconomic indicators I want. So the first one is under national account. I'm interested in GDP. So I'll just take a look. Here we have GDP, constant price, national currency, GDP constant price percentage. We are interested in the growth rate. So we want to take a look at the percent. So I'm going to click here. That's awesome. So let's take a look at where we can find the GDP deflator, which is an indicator of the price level in general in an economy. So I'll come to GDP deflator, which is an index. I'm going to click here. So you can see we've selected 2. I'm going to move on. Under money, I'm interested in the cost of living, so I'll look for consumer price index. We have the average consumer price index. We have the percent. We have blah, blah, blah. I want the index. I want inflation average consumer price index. I want the index, not the percentage change. So we move on to trade. Are we interested in that? No, we've not covered anything related to that. So let it go. People, we have the unemployment rate, which is simply a percent of total labor force. So you are looking at the employed divided by the labor force. Now remember, the labor force is simply the unemployed and employed. So I'm going to click here. We'll let the other ones go. Government finance, I don't think we are interested in any of this. That's awesome. So we have chosen unemployment rate, we've chosen inflation, we've chosen the deflator, the GDP deflator, and we have chosen GDP. So we move on to continue. Now we have to select the range. What do we mean by the range? We are interested in, so they have from 1980 and whatever their idea is. I think I'll go till 2020. Okay, 2020 makes a lot of sense. Now, what do we want to be included? I don't want any append series specific notes. I don't want any notes. Let's see. Subject descriptor. Yes, we want it. We want to know what it's all about. All the other things we do not want for now. How do I want it sorted? I think I want to be sorted by subject, then by country. Is that it? By country, then by subject. Okay, let's just leave this. It really doesn't matter. Show all rows, blah, blah, blah. That's it. I'll click on prepare report. If you click new query, it's going to clean all what you've done. You may have to start from zero. Okay, I'll click on prepare report. And once we have it, this is our report. So you have two options. You can download it and then go to Excel, create a connection, or you can create a connection to this website. So I'm going to create a connection to this website. We are not going to download it. We'll connect to this website. For that, I have to go to Excel. I need to open my Microsoft Excel. Hopefully you have it already installed. Every student has it under Office 365. So I'll load a blank Excel sheet. So I just make sure I have a blank one. So I'll go back to, I'll go back here. What I'll do, I want to copy this URL. So just make sure you go there. You either do Control A to select the whole URL, and we want to copy it, Control C. Okay, those using Mac, it's Command. Whenever I say Control, you just use Command. So Command A will select it. After clicking inside, Command C will copy it. So we will go to our blank Excel worksheet, workbook. And once you come here, what you need to do is to look for where you have data. So you click on data and you have different tools that enable you to manipulate data. So it says get and transform data. Now, you should be careful. If you are using an older version, it may not look exactly like mine, but under get and transform data, you should be able to find from web. So we want to get and transform our data coming from the web. So I will click here from web, and it's going to give me this dialog box. I will leave it as basic, and I will paste what the URL I just copied. I'll paste it there, and I will say OK, and I will give it a few minutes, try to connect. So it's telling me it is connecting. It may take a bit of time, but it's okay. It's important. I could pause the video and come back when it has connected, but I think it's important for you to see it takes some time. So it moves to this screen in order to show the tables which are here. So there are tables on this web page. So it's going to take me there. So here we go. If you click on this, you will find that, I was saying if you click on it, it shows you what it's all about. So you can see blah, blah, blah. This is not what you're interested in. If you click here, it gives you a preview. You don't see the whole table, but you have a preview of the content of the table. You can see that you have the country, you have the subject descriptor, you have the units, and then if you go on, you have the year and the data. So it's quite messy. That's why we need to extract it. We need to transform it. In other words, we need to clean it. If you click here, you also have, so this is like a repetition of the same information. Okay, so we do not need both of them, we need just one. So I'm going to click on, I'll just click on 0. Now if you want to select all of them, it's important to check this box. If you see, take a look here, you have select multiple items. If you click there, it gives you the ability to select all of them, but we don't want that, so I'll just take that. Okay, feel free to take any of these two. They are identical tables. And by the way, this is table view. If you go to web view, in principle, it takes you, let me open this, it takes you exactly to where the table is on that website. So table 0 is this table. This is what you are taking. So if you go back to that website, to the IMF website, you can clearly see this is what it's trying to copy for you. That's what it's telling you. It's telling you this is what I want to take. So let's go back to table view. We have it. So make sure this is selected. Make sure you've checked this box, and on your here below you click on transform data. So I'm going to click on transform data, and it's going to connect the data to what we call Power Query. So if you take a look here, you'll find that it's table 0 under Power Query Editor. The name of this add-in of Excel is Power Query Editor. This is an extremely powerful tool that enables you to clean your data and play around with it. Now, let's just make a few adjustments. If you come here under View, View is how you view your data. You can leave it under Show White Space, and I'll always go with Column Quality. Okay, I click here. Just make sure you have the formula bar, you have column quality. It really doesn't matter, but it helps you to see what is going on. For example, here you can see this is your formula bar. You check, you can see what it's doing. That is for advanced users who understand what is called the M language. Here you have the column quality that tells you what is going on. So if I take it off, you can see what happens. It's telling me 100% of the data in this column is valid. There is 0 error, nothing is empty. So that's just, here you can see we have 11% empty, 89% valid, and so on. And you can see the type of emptiness it's talking about. You have these 2 dashes. Okay, so that's it for view. Let's go back to home. We now need to clean this. So the first thing I want to do is to change the name of the table. I'll give the name as indicators, as macro indicators. I'll hit enter, and it's going to change the name of the table. Not only it changes it here, it also changes it there. Okay, you see we have a lot of data. It takes time to load this. I hate seeing that spinning. So for the moment, I'll take off column quality so that I don't see that happening. And when we need to take a look at it, we are going to check that box. Great. So what do we want to do? If you take a look, the first principle is that do not continue with data you really do not need. We need the name of the countries. We need to know the name of the indicator. But the units, you really do not need the units. You can keep it if you've forgotten this is percent, but we really do not need the units. We do not need the scale. Of course, we need all of this, but not in this format. We have to change the format into a format we can clearly manipulate. So the first thing I will do, I will select these 2 columns. I'll click here on the title where you have units, and I will use my finger to hold down the command key or the control key. The control key, I'll hold it down, I'll click here. Once I do that, I can hit delete on my keyboard. You hit delete on your keyboard, or you right click and you say remove columns. Any of them will do it. So I'll click on remove columns. And if you take a look here, this is recording all what you've been doing. These are the steps. that these are the things you've done till now. You've just removed columns. If you go to source, if I click here on source, so you can see, if I click here, it shows me where I pasted the URL. So I pasted it, and it's a type, the file is an HTML page. I'll click cancel. If I go under navigation, it's going to tell me, okay, when you had your source, this is where you came, you navigated here, and you choose this table. Why does it do that? Let me go again to cancel, so that you can change. If there's any mistake, you can go back in time, change it, and it will propagate to all the other steps. And if you go to change type, what happened in change type? If you take a look here, you see these are the different data types. ABC, if we click here on ABC, ABC actually means it's text. And if you take a look here, you can clearly see this is text. If you come here, ABC, it is text. So it automatically updated the data type for us. If you come here, it has ABC, but it's really because things are mixed. Okay, it should be, we want this to become decimal eventually. By the time we get to the end, we are going to change it. So we have deleted, we have removed the columns we want. Let me go back to the last step. It's always good to work from the last step, else if you click here and you continue working, it thinks you want to insert something in between those steps. Always go back to your last step. Now what we want to do, we want to do what is called unpivot. Because this has been pivoted, we want to unpivot it. Now by the way, just for your information, in order for you to know what is here, the number of countries which are here, you can always click on this filter. Under the filter, you can take a look at all the countries which are here. If we come here, you can take a look at the different indicators. You clearly see we have GDP, the GDP deflator, you have the consumer price index, and you have unemployment rate. Those are the things which are here, and here you have all sorts of things. Now it's important to know how many rows do we have. We can go to transform. If you go to transform, it's going to count the number of rows. It actually doesn't matter where you click. It's going to tell you, so under transform, I can ask it to count the number of columns, to count the number of rows which are there. So under transform, if you go to count rows and click, so we have 780 rows. Okay, 780 rows. I will click here to remove that step, and we get back to the previous one. And by the way, there is no undo here, so you should be careful. If you take off something, you cannot undo it. This is just the way you can't undo things. Okay, so we want to unpivot it. When we do it, you will actually see what it means and how it helps. So I will click there on country. I will use Control, select that. We want to unpivot everything else. So I am going to right click here on top of this. The two have been selected. I'll right click. I'll come here and say unpivot other columns. Once I do the unpivoting, you will see that it's going to put all the years here. Okay, and this is what we want. We want it to look like that. We will come here. I'll double click on the title, or you can right click on it. It will give you the option to rename, but I will double click, and here I will call it here. Hit enter. We have changed it, and here we have the values of the different subject descriptors. So actually this is, we call it subject descriptor, but that's not the right name. We will unpivot this. We will change certain things here. Okay, so the next step, we want to change this NA. This NA is not really useful. So if you take a look, you can now see this is text, 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 but here it doesn't know. It says it can be text and it can be a whole number. Okay, that's why you have both of them, because there's just a mixture here. So we want to get rid of this NA, okay, the not available, and use null. Null just means there's nothing. Do not put 0. 0 means they had a GDP of 0. Use null, it means we don't have the data. So I'm going to go to transform, and under transform I will go to any column. Okay, under any column I want to replace the values. So I first select this, I go to transform, then I look for any columns, I click there, and I take replace values. Now what do I want to replace? I want to replace NA, and I want to replace NA with what? With null. So I will say OK, and NA has been replaced with null. So I'll just click here to see, is there any strange thing which is here? If I scroll down, I won't scroll to the end, because after you pivot there are just too many columns. Okay, so just to see the number, there are too many rows. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Just to see the number of rows you now have in this table, if you go back to count rows, we have 28,000 rows now. So I'll take this off. So you are dealing with 28,000 rows. So just to make sure we don't have an error as we move on, I'll click here again. I'll go back to transform, and I'll go to replace, because at times you can have this thing, you can have something like that. I want to replace that with null. Okay, that is double dash. I want to replace it with null in case it is there. So let's say okay, in case it's there, it's going to replace it with null. If it's not there, that's all right. And there are times when people have 2 points, but let's let it go. Now I'm going to come here. I'll change the data type, because I like this. This is column, it's in text. This is in text. This is also text. It really doesn't matter. We want it to be date. Yeah, I'm going to change this to date, because it's year. And then here I want this to be decimal number. So you can clearly, so it records the change of type here. Now I can go to the profile to view, and I say column profile, to see the distribution, or I can simply say column quality, and it's going to give me what is there. 100% valid, 100% valid, here we have 18% empty. That's okay. So now the last step of what we want to do, let me take this off. We want to pivot this. Okay, when we unpivoted, you saw how it looked like. Now we will pivot this, and you will see what happens when you pivot this. So I will click here. I want to pivot it, so I will go to transform. Under any columns, I will find pivot column. I want to pivot this column. In other words, if you click here under the filter, you will see 4 indicators. I want each indicator to have its own column. That's what it's going to do for us. So once I come here, I'll click on pivot column. Now it wants to know I'm pivoting this column with respect to what? With respect to the values which we have here. So I will change this to value, okay? And I will say okay. Once you do that, it pivots it, and you can clearly see now you have country, you have the year, you have the different indicators. So I will change the names so that it's much more readable. So I'll double click and I'll just call this GDP. Hit enter. I'll come here. I'll make it GDP deflator. GDP deflator. Here is the CPI, Consumer Price Index. Here we have the unemployment rate. So I'll make it unemployment rate. And that is it. We are done with this phase of our work. We've extracted it. We've created, we did not download it. We just copied the URL, pasted it, created this connection, and now we want to go into Excel and mess around with it. Now that our data is clean, we will go to Home, and under Home on your right, you will go to Close. Where you have Close, you will click here. Do not just click Close, then it's going to place everything on your Excel sheet. You don't want that. You want to click on this arrow and you choose Close and Load To. So you want Close and Load To. Once we click there, the dialog box comes. So what do we want? We can create a connection, or we can simply go to Pivot Table Report. We want Pivot Table Report. So I'll do OK. And once we load it, it's going to immediately create a pivot table so that we can build a report based on the data. So if you take a look here, you now have your pivot table. So let's say your pivot table doesn't look like mine. If it looks, let me see, the default is generally, so if maybe it looks like this, okay, I extended things. You can come here, click there and choose this. So everything depends on your screen size, and then you can go in between this, click and increase it. So I'm going to increase that. Now the next thing I want to do, so here we have year. I want to pull year and put it where we have rows. Year, I'll put it here. So we have all the rows there. Okay, now you can see it has created a whole mess here. I don't want all of this, so I'm going to click, take this out, click on quarters, take the quarters out, and just leave years. Okay, so I can choose any of them. So I'll just let this, I just want the years, just keep the years. All the other things, take them out. Now the next thing you want to do, you want to go to country. You don't want all the countries. Here you have all the years, but you do not want all the countries. You want one and only one country. So you can click here and you can click on Select All to uncheck it, then scroll and go to Canada. We are exclusively interested in Canada. I'll say OK. Then I will click there and I will pull it and put it where you have columns. So we now have Canada. Now we want to pull all of this except the quarters. We don't want these quarters, okay? We want CPI. You will put it where you have values. You will take GDP, you will put it where you have values. The deflator where you have values, and the unemployment rate where you have values. Okay, you can see whenever we do that, it gives us the sum, but it also gives us a total. We don't want that total. So we will go where you have design. You click on the design, and you can go here where you have layout. You will click on grand totals. You will take off for rows and columns. So we no more have it for the rows and columns. In addition, we want to change the look of this. We want to go to layout, report layout, and take show in tabular form. then it looks something familiar. Okay, now if you take a look at this, this is the situation of Canada. Of course, if you come here, you can filter and add more countries, but by all means, do not do that for now. Here you have the years, you have the sum of CPI and everything. Let's not even call it sum. This is a crazy name. Let's click here and just say CPI. Hit enter. Let me see. Pivot table field already exists. Yeah. Okay, I'll say total. Okay, let's just leave it. It's not worth the pain. So now you have everything. From this point, you can plot graphs. For example, if I want to see how the unemployment rate in Canada has changed across time, I simply need, so just if you click here, you lose everything. But if you come back here, you see everything comes back. When you click out of it, it changes. You no more see the pivot part. But if you click here, you come back to your pivot. So here, you can always go to Pivot Table Analyze. And under Pivot Table Analyze, you can click on Pivot Chart. And you can have a chart of any of these things. It's really up to you what you want to put on your chart. We will have time to see how to do all of it. But for now, if you have this table, all what you have to do is to save it. You will save it, and that will, I'll give you instructions how to go on. So by next time, we will move on from this point. So make sure you get to this point. If you have any questions, do not hesitate. Send me a line and we will sort things out.